Hello, I'm going to continue my analysis of the flight that was from Zurich to Sao Paulo, and I wanted to cover a few points that Taboo Conspiracy kept bringing up. At the last that I saw of it, he had made at least 3 videos on that, and he brought up Google Earth in all 3 of the videos. I don't know exactly when he was told Google Earth shows the stars, but even in the 3rd video, he kept trying to imply that because we don't see the stars moving straight up, that we can't be living on a ball. Of course, he makes a few other assumptions and a few other presumptions, but I got a copy of Google Earth and I was playing around with it a little bit, and I think that I've got a good visual representation of why that particular argument was wrong. What I've done was I created a KML file that I imported into Google Earth, and in this case, this is a Great Circle route track that I created, and I was really hoping that I could get Google Earth to tie it in with the time, but I did also figure out a way to indicate the start and end time. And if I could somehow fly over that tour and have Google Earth track the time accordingly, then we should hopefully have a slightly better accurate representation of that flight. And unfortunately, I'm going to have to be fully manual, but I think that I can demonstrate how Taboo Conspiracy's argument of using Google Earth to disprove the shape of the Earth can't be a sphere due to the star trails is a false analysis and is rather a fallacious argument. What I'm going to do is I will make this KML file that I created available. Check the description below. You'll be able to download a copy of it. So when I opened that KML file, it created Spain to Brazil in my temporary places. If I expand on that, there's one track. It's the GCR track. It stands for the Great Circle Route track. If I add that to a tour, I should then be able to click on the play tour. I also disabled the atmosphere layer so that you can see the stars. And then now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause this. And this is where I have to do things manually. I indicated roughly 9:30 p.m. to 7:43 a.m. the next day. I just picked some kind of arbitrary date, but you can scroll the time back to something like this. And then to show how the flight matches, you match this scroll bar to the same position as this scroll bar. So I would just jump ahead to, let's say, maybe 10%, and then I'd move this scroll bar to about 10%. Let's move this one to about that far, scroll this one a little bit farther. Scroll that one a little bit farther. And here you can see how Taboo Conspiracy's video showed that the stars were moving straight up. But if I move this ahead a little bit more, you can see that the stars move clockwise like they did in the time-lapse video that pilot took. And I can keep going like that. And by the time they get to the Atlantic Ocean, I'm right about there. And if I move ahead roughly right around there, you can see that the Milky Way galaxy forms an angle roughly like this in a similar way that it did in the time lapse. So as far as I'm concerned, using Google Earth and making the argument that an airplane would have to constantly dip its nose to go around the curve of the Earth is a bit of a straw man and somewhat of a fallacious argument. The second point that Taboo Conspiracy brought up in the 2nd and the 3rd video had to do with star trails. And again, Taboo Conspiracy showed these star trails and said,
if I were in the northern hemisphere standing on a mountain facing west, the stars should appear to drop, as shown here, based on the claim that the Earth is rotating towards the east.
I did not hear Taboo Conspiracy say that these specific star trails are a false representation of reality. Therefore, I will have to go on the assumption that Taboo Conspiracy agrees that the star trails that are represented in this fashion are indeed correct. So if we can assume that the star trails shown in these diagrams are in fact representative of reality, here's a slightly different one of the northern hemisphere that he brought up. You can see that there is a central point around which all the stars rotate in the northern hemisphere looking towards the north, that looking towards the south, all stars appear to rotate, and by all intents, if you were to follow the center of these arcs, you should see a point below ground level as being another point that those stars rotate around. What about the southern hemisphere? Because there are people living in the southern hemisphere who can attest to the accuracy of this. And now we have the single point around which other stars rotate, not in the north, but in the south direction. And when they look north, all of the stars rotate around a point that appears below the horizon. And so with that, I decided I was going to create a whole bunch of different animations that show how these star trails can in fact work. And the other thing that I wanted to point out is that Taboo Conspiracy suggested that the stars rotate like this and making the association to flights. But in reality, all of these star trails depend on a single fixed camera, such as the cameras that I have bolted to my back deck. As soon as you put a camera on a moving object such as an airplane, these star trails can no longer be trusted as representative of what you would see on an airplane. So that is another fallacy that Taboo Conspiracy has been making. One of the features that I added to my skywatching app was a star trail mode, and what it does is every time that I create a new animation, it creates a separate image that overlays the new star's position on top of a static image, much like how you would create a real star trail photo by stacking all of the individual images that you've taken. And with that, I decided I was going to create a whole series of star trails, both for a fixed position camera. I decided to recreate the northern hemisphere type movement, and I decided to arbitrarily put the camera at 45 degrees north. I also decided to recreate the flights that I've already animated. I turned on the star trails, not only for the flight going southwest, but I also created a separate one that was going northeast. And I will leave a whole bunch of links to a bunch of videos in the description below, so you can go and check those out. So I'm just going to play those videos now. That's going to be it for now. Thank you for watching. And again, if you like the video, I'd appreciate the thumbs up. And if you're not subscribed, I would appreciate the subscribe as well and all that other good YouTube stuff. I'm going to see you again in another video soon enough. So bye for now.